We're going to have Dixie share today the lesson, but I want to share one quick story. This is from like 27 years ago, and I was just telling Dixie about this a little bit ago. But I'll never forget meeting with a certain realtor. He's no longer in the business. I don't even think he's in Roanoke anymore. But I was meeting with a certain realtor, and we were chatting about another realtor in Roanoke that was very, very, very successful at the time. And I made the comment to this guy. I said, "Have you ever noticed she's always happy, always positive, always has a smile on on her face?" And this guy told me, he said, "Well, if I was making the kind of money she was making, I would always be smiling too." And when he said that, something triggered in my brain. It's like, I think you got it backwards. Like, if you want to increase your income, if you want to find more joy in your life, if you want to have more leads, more prospects, higher conversion, if you want all those things, it starts with being positive and a good frame of mind. So, Dixie, take it away. I'm sorry for stealing your thunder for a little bit, but the floor is yours, lady.
No problem. That's a really good story, and it is very relevant to our subject matter for sure. So, welcome everyone to our boot camp this week. Of course, my name is Dixie Lowe, and I'm one of three loan officers here on our team at Integrity Mortgage. Mastering your mindset, the gap versus the gain. That's our subject matter today. So, let's get started. I will let everyone know that we are recording this video and we will mute you, but we do encourage participation. So if you have a question, you're welcome to drop it in the chat or save your questions to the end. Or if you want to unmute yourself and ask questions along the way, that's perfectly fine too. All right. Let's start with this. Your mindset is your most powerful business tool. So small shifts equal massive results. Your mindset is a very powerful tool in your business and in your life. And speaking of tools in our industry, there are not very many of them out there that are free tools. So this is definitely one that's free. So why not master it? And I will start with a little story. As a team, Jonathan has been really great at encouraging us to read together books that help build us up in our personal life and our business life. So over the years, we've probably read 100 books. We have a new book to read actually upcoming soon. This book that we're going to be incorporating into our slideshow today is The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan. It is one of the books that remain in my home. Many others have been donated. Sorry, Jonathan. This one sits on my desk and is heavily highlighted, and I reference it very often because mindset is very important in our business life, but also our personal life. So, this is actually one of my favorites. And just so that you know, I'm not filling your head with a bunch of lies, I'll even show you. Right here it is. All right. So here's a couple of really great quotes from the book. Um, and they'll make a little bit more sense as we go through the details in our slideshow here. Happiness is not something that you pursue, but happiness is where you start, not where you finish. Being in the gain means you're measuring yourself backwards against where you were before. So this kind of will touch a little bit on the concepts of how the gap and gain work. We'll go through a couple of slides and break down what does the gap mean and what does that look like? What does the gain mean and what does that look like? So we'll go ahead and move on. All right, let's start with the gap mindset. So the gap mindset is definitely more of the negative thought process. The story that Jonathan shared earlier, a really great example of the negative spin that was put on that conversation. And to define the gap mindset, it's going to be a mindset that measures success against an idea of where you think you should be, instead of measuring your progress from where you started. So, a core pattern and what a gap mindset would look like is a comment like, I'm not there yet. I'm not where I need to be. So, what does that sound like in the real estate world, in your world? I should be closing more by now. She's doing double my volume. That deal falling apart ruined my month. And I've definitely heard comments like this over the years, so they certainly do exist, and I'm sure that everybody here on this call is probably guilty of something similar to this, of course, at some point. So the result of the gap mindset is chronic dissatisfaction, comparison syndrome, which is really not healthy. We're all very different for lots of reasons. Burnout, despite the successes that you've actually made, you're forgetting about the small successes that you've made, and your wins are feeling temporary. Wins should feel wonderful. They should never feel temporary. You should just build upon them. So the gap keeps you focused on what you're missing, not what you've done so far. So the gap is not where we want to be. So when you're at a start line and you're at a finish line, along the way, there's lots of little bitty goals that you'll hit. They deserve to be celebrated too. And comparing yourself to where you are now in comparison to the finish line is not a fair comparison. You're selling yourself short on the achievements that you've made, and those small wins deserve to be celebrated. All right. So, in juxtaposition to that, you have the gain mindset. So, the gain mindset is certainly more positive. The definition of a gain mindset is you're measuring your success by how far you've come. You're tracking your progress, the improvement, and your growth over time. An example of what that mindset may look like in a statement would be, look how far I've come, versus when we were looking at the gap mindset of, I'm not where I need to be. But instead, look how far I've come. So, what does that sound like in your world as realtors? I've doubled my referrals in the last 12 months. I handled that negotiation better than I did last year. And I know that everyone on this Zoom call that's a realtor right now can look back at what happened to them last year and know that they've probably handled similar situations much better this year because of the learning moment that you had. That fallout taught me something valuable. So, as lenders, we have fallout as well as you all, realtors. Sometimes things are outside of our control, but did it teach you a lesson? Did it sharpen your skill set? I'm sure that it did. So just remember those things too. So that results in confidence, motivation, resilience, and sustainable growth. All of those things are very important in your business, actually, and in your overall happiness in your day-to-day life. So the gain keeps you focused on your progress and the baby steps. The progress is what will carry you to the goal that you desire in the long run. So it's important to focus on the progress. Okay, so the gain sounds good, huh? So we all want to be in the gain now, I'm assuming. So how do you operate in the gain? Like, how do you get there? All right, so here's three little bullet points, little tips that can sort of help you get there and retrain your brain, so that you can operate in the gain. We'll start with what I feel like is a super non-negotiable, which is your weekly gain review. So once a week, this doesn't have to take a lot of time on a Friday, on a Sunday when you're winding down. Instead of sitting there and asking yourself, did I hit my goal for the week? Maybe instead ask yourself, what moved my business forward this week? What did I handle better than I did last time? What skills did I sharpen? What skills did I improve upon this week? What relationships did I deepen? Those are all important things that should be looked back on and focused on and given glory to. All right, and so then the next tip, the 90-day backward comparison. And this is one that I use a lot actually, and it's probably one of my favorites. Instead of, I'm not where I want to be, ask yourself, where was I at 90 days ago? What feels easier to me now than it did then? And what problems did I have then that are no longer present, that are gone now? So I'll give you an actual personal example of this for me. So with my ultimate goal being my finish line, and with the start of my goal being the start line, looking back 90 days, in our business, things are ever changing. We're learning new processes, we're learning new products, we're always learning. So 90 days ago versus today, I've learned a whole lot about grant programs and that they can be stacked with one another. And those grant programs can be combined to save borrowers tons of money. 90 days ago, I didn't understand the philosophy of stacking those grants per se, but now I have that mastered, and it's something to be super grateful for. Is it my long-term finish line goal? No, it's not, but it definitely deserves to be acknowledged, and I'm very grateful that I learned those things. So looking back at that 90-day look back, I think it's very important. So certainly one of my favorites, the 90-day backwards comparison. All right. Another great one is the language shift. Okay, so just thinking about how things are worded, whether you're actually vocalizing them or if it's just up in your noodle. Okay, so it's important to make sure that the positivity and the wording and the language is going in the direction of the gain. So train your brain to say instead of I only closed two, maybe to say I closed two more families last month. And that's something to be proud of. Instead of saying I'm so behind, and I'll tell you, I'm very guilty of that myself. I probably say that every single week. Okay. But instead of saying that, say I'm building momentum because you are. You're checking the boxes off of that to-do list. You're getting things done. You're building momentum. So just keep those tactics in mind to help you operate in the game. Okay, so when we were reviewing this book as a team, one of the very first things that came to mind when the light bulb went off on how much I love the gain and how much I want to stay in the gain is can I use this concept in other areas of my life? And the answer is a big fat resounding yes. Absolutely, you can. Okay. So let's chat about that some. So I just plugged out a couple of examples, but there are endless examples here on how you can use the gap and the gain in your real life um, to overall clean things up to make your life more happy and to keep your positive mindset. So let's look at parenting first. All of us parents or soon to be parents that are on the call here can probably really relate to this. I know that I can personally. So a gap mindset in parenting might be other moms and dads seem to be way more put together. And I can remember when my kids were small and things were going everywhere and life was crazy. I always saw that mom that seemed to have everything super organized. Her hair was perfect. Her car was sparkling clean. Her kids were perfectly dressed. So I've had this thought myself multiple times, but instead of thinking that you're less than, thinking the gain mindset is I show up consistently, even if I'm tired, even if my hair looks like I just rolled out of bed. So keep this in mind for parenting, but there are many other examples, many other examples. So here's one for health and fitness. I'm sure that at the beginning of the year, a lot of us, including myself, of course, have set wellness and fitness goals. So a gap mindset is I've not reached my goal weight. Well, the gain mindset is, we're only in February at this point. I'm stronger than I was a few months ago. So keeping all those things in mind and looking at the positive outcome where you've come from the start, super important. It's very helpful in a fitness journey for sure because big changes in your overall personal appearance don't happen overnight. All right. And so finances. I think we all have to deal with finances on a daily basis, whether we want to or not. So a gap mindset is we're not where we thought we'd be by now, right? So maybe your finance goal this year was to be debt free. Well, no, besides your mortgage, because mortgages are important because it's what keeps us lenders in business, just so you know. So debt free beside your mortgage. Okay, we're going to go with that. But a gain mindset might be we've paid off two debts this year. So that's big. That's a huge thing. Two debts, if they're big debts, can change your financial outlook pretty substantially and actually help you pay off other things much quicker too. So thinking in that direction is definitely beneficial. All right, so let's talk a little bit about work-life balance. I think we should all think about that every single day, and especially realtors and even lenders kind of fall in this category. Our work kind of consumes our life a lot of times. Maybe you feel like I work too much. I'm not spending as much time as I need to with my family. I'm not feeling present. But recently you've decided that you're going to take one night a week unplugged. That's a big step. That's a big step in the right direction with doing the right things for yourself and your family. So just retraining your brain and rewiring your brain on focusing on the small accomplishments that you've made so far can really change things in a positive way. All right. The gap makes you feel behind in your own life, both in your business and in your personal life. So the gap makes you feel like you're not good enough. You're not doing everything that you need to do. But the gain reminds you that growth is already happening every single day. Every single day that you've woke up and you've accomplished things, you've checked items off your to-do list, you've impacted people in a positive way, that is progress in the right direction to your finish line and definitely should be celebrated.
It's easy sometimes to allow yourself to get into a gap mindset. In fact, I fight it probably more often than um, I want to admit to, but it's part of the thing. It's part of living life. So I'm gonna give you some quick little tactics that I think do help with this piece. One is write down in the morning, write down 3 wins you had from yesterday. And just like what Dixie was saying a second ago, it may not be I lost 20 pounds yesterday. Nobody's going to lose 20 pounds in a day, but maybe you feel healthier today, or you feel lighter today, or you feel stronger today than you did yesterday. That's a win, right? Um, I think so often people in sales, and I'm super guilty of this, judge each day by how many loans did I lock yesterday. That's how I judge my day a lot of times. And I think realtors can fall into how many contracts did I write yesterday or last week, or I haven't written one in 2 weeks. So, I'm losing. That can quickly get you into a gap mindset. But if I look yesterday and look at the activity I did to help try to produce results in the future, that's a win to me because I did do stuff yesterday that should help promote me and move me forward. And I think you can look at that too. So look at the wins that you did yesterday, and it can be small wins. Maybe you followed up with 2 old leads. That's a win, right? It could be you didn't procrastinate doing something. It could be you asked for a referral from one of the leads that you talked to. Those are all really, really small little wins, but I think it's important to each day look at wins and then don't track so much your closings. And for a person that is very competitive, this is super difficult for me because I love looking at the scoreboard. I love seeing what my pay log looks like for next month. I can't track my closings. What I need to track is my activity. As long as I'm doing activity, I stay in a positive mindset, right? So I think it's important to do that. And then just try to avoid comparisons. So here's one that gets me. And I just wonder if anyone has ever felt this before. You're minding your own business, scrolling Facebook, and you see another realtor over the weekend, and they're talking about how they just wrote 4 contracts for the weekend and you didn't write any. How does that make you feel? Like, I would love to say that makes me feel joyful for my competitors when I see them doing pre-approvals or locking loans on the weekend and they put it on social media. But it's so easy to compare their success to maybe what I didn't get done in a weekend. And we can't do that. That robs us of joy, right? And I think it's easy to scroll through Facebook and see how other people are making progress, how they're moving forward, how all of a sudden they got super busy and, you know, and compare it to where what happened to me in the last 30 minutes. So, well, I didn't lock a loan in the last 30 minutes, so I guess I suck. That's not true. But it's so easy to compare um, to others. And I think for me, social media, I have to be really careful with how I perceive other people putting things up. Um, so anyhow, those are some tactics that I think can help. But starting the day off in gratitude, starting the day off writing down some wins from yesterday will get you in a good place. Um, my team would be quick to tell you I probably don't start every day off with the positive mindset. That's why we're forced to do gratitude in the morning, because it helps me get to a better place mentally, right? So gratitude's super important.